You know, in pretty much any classroom, the phrase pay attention has got to be the most common and maybe the most useless instruction a teacher can give. I mean, how do you actually teach something that abstract? Well, today we're going to dig into a technique that does exactly that, turning that vague idea into concrete, teachable actions using one simple, memorable acronym. But seriously, think about it for a second. If you're a teacher, getting a room full of kids to pay attention is step one. It's the biggest hurdle. But what does that actually mean? What does it physically look like? That's the challenge, right? Because you can't teach something if you can't even define it. So why is this so important? Why all the fuss about defining attention? Well, because, as we're about to see, it is the absolute gatekeeper to all learning. I mean, this quote just nails it. If a student isn't paying attention, it doesn't matter if you're giving the most brilliant, life-changing lesson of all time. The information just isn't getting through. Attention is literally the switch that allows our brains to let information in, to encode it, to remember it, and eventually to use it. Without it, that gate is locked shut. And if you look at it from the teacher's side, you can pour hours, days into crafting the perfect lesson plan. But if the students aren't ready to receive it, all that hard work just evaporates. So teaching these attention routines, it's really about making sure that professional investment pays off by opening up the channel for learning. Okay, so here's the million-dollar question. How do you teach something that's basically invisible, like attention? Simple. You make it visible. You turn the abstract concept into a clear, observable routine that everyone can see and do. And this is where the acronym SLANT comes into play. It's a super handy mnemonic that breaks down paying attention into 5 really simple actions. S, sit up. L, lean forward. A, ask and answer questions. N, nod your head, to show you're with the speaker. And T, track the speaker with your eyes. Every single one of those is a physical, visible sign of engagement. No more guesswork. Now, SLANT isn't the only game in town. There's another really popular variation called STAR. And you'll see it shares a lot of the same DNA. Sit up, track the speaker, ask or answer questions, but it swaps out lean forward and nod your head for one big overarching idea: respect those around you. And when you put them side by side like this, you can really see the different philosophies behind them. SLANT, with its nod your head, is all about giving the teacher that immediate nonverbal feedback. STAR, on the other hand, with respect those around you, kind of zooms out. It's more about building a positive, respectful classroom culture. So one's about feedback, the other's about the whole vibe. But here's the thing. This isn't just a clever classroom management trick. There's some real, solid cognitive science behind why creating simple habits like this actually works so well for our brains. And this right here, this illustrates the core principle perfectly. Vague expectations like be respectful actually create uncertainty and anxiety. A student has to burn mental energy just trying to figure out, what does my teacher mean by that right now? But a concrete routine, like track the speaker, that removes all the ambiguity. It creates a stable, safe environment where kids know exactly what's expected of them. This plugs directly into a huge idea in psychology called cognitive load theory. The basic idea is that our brains have a limited amount of processing power, kind of like a computer's RAM. When students have to constantly think about things like how to sit or where they should be looking, it eats up that precious mental bandwidth. By making those behaviors automatic with a routine, you free all of that up. So what's the end result? Well, by putting these attention routines on autopilot, students can save all their cognitive horsepower for the actual lesson, for the tricky algebra problem, for analyzing the poem, for understanding photosynthesis. It's a total game changer, especially for learners who find it tough to juggle a lot of things at once. Okay, so having a routine is one thing, but how do teachers actually get a whole class to make it an automatic, unbreakable habit? Well, it definitely doesn't happen by accident. It takes a really deliberate, thoughtful system. And a really popular framework for this is the 5-step Walkthrus model. It's super logical. The teacher models exactly what the routine looks like, the whole class rehearses it, maybe a few times, then the teacher gives the signal to perform it. Then comes this really crucial pause. And finally, the teacher insists on it until it becomes totally embedded. The key thing here is the routine is actively taught, not just announced. In fact, that pause and insist part is so important that it's its own little technique. The teacher gives a clear signal, something like, okay, show me SLANT. Then they pause. And this pause is golden. It's not dead time. It's giving students a few seconds to actually process the request and adjust their bodies. Only after that pause does the teacher calmly but firmly insist on 100% before moving a single step forward with the lesson. And that insistence, that is everything. The real power of a routine like SLANT comes from its consistency. When it becomes a non-negotiable, no opt-out standard for how we pay attention in this room, it transforms into a true habit. It maximizes every minute of instructional time and builds a culture where everyone is ready to learn every single time. But, and you knew there was a but coming, right? Like any powerful tool, this kind of highly structured approach isn't without its critics. And it brings up some really important questions about the balance between classroom order and, well, everything else that matters in education. So essential critique is this. If you put such an intense focus on compliance, do you accidentally, or even intentionally, steer the classroom away from the messy, wonderful chaos of deep intellectual engagement? Some folks worry that forcing certain physical postures could become more about control and less about authentic learning. And this slide frames that tension perfectly. Is a routine like SLANT a necessary precondition for learning, something that clears the runway so the jets of deep thinking can take off? Or could it become a substitute for learning, where the appearance of engagement is valued more than genuine curiosity? Now, the proponents will argue it's absolutely the former, but it's a real risk that has to be managed carefully. And the conversation gets even more nuanced. You've got this whole alphabet soup of educational acronyms that can sometimes make parents feel like outsiders. And maybe, more importantly, the very definition of what attention looks like isn't universal. How we show engagement can vary dramatically across cultures. A student who's avoiding eye contact might be showing deep respect in their culture, not defiance. And all of this brings us back to that central challenge. The whole point of a routine like SLANT is to build a strong, stable bridge to learning. The question for any educator, for any school system is this: how do we build that bridge strong enough to support every single student without accidentally making it a cage that traps their natural curiosity?